Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Authors on Mission podcast, the podcast committed to uncovering top-tier insights and strategies from established experts who have achieved remarkable success in their fields and written about it. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Ashton August, author of her powerful new book, 101 Mindfulness Practices to Ease Anxiety. You can restore your mental wellness with breathwork, guided meditation, mindful movement, and more. We're going to learn all about how Ashton is a renowned wellness expert, and what makes her approach really awesome is that she's personally navigated the challenges of generalized anxiety disorder, bringing both her professional experience and lived experience into this book. So really cool things to talk about. And we're going to dig into some of the most powerful mindfulness techniques as well, and the writing practices that brought it to life in the pages. So here we go. Ashton, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Danielle. Thank you for everyone tuning in. I've been very much looking forward to this conversation today.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. We have a lot of amazing authors on this show, but this is actually one of the first ones I think that have been about mindfulness practices. So I'm excited to maybe even learn a little bit myself.
I love that.
Yeah, so why don't you get started and let us know a little bit more about yourself and what led you into this mindfulness space exactly? We spoke a little bit of it before, and also what led you to writing the book also?
Yeah. First and foremost, before being an entrepreneur, before being a yoga and meditation guide, writing was my first passion in life. And so I've been an avid writer my whole life. Before becoming an entrepreneur and author, I was an English professor, which I loved very much. So the passion for not just writing, but also in supporting other writers has been big for me throughout my entire life. In fact, I now also do consulting for writers too. So lots of different angles that have, kept my writing a part of my career throughout. And I wrote my first book in 2018. I self-published that. And it was such a fun process to write and birth that book baby. And that also led to the opportunity to write my second book, which was my first book deal in 2021. So fast forward to this past year when I had the opportunity to write this book. And I really am passionate about mindfulness for anxiety. As you mentioned, I have had anxiety for most of my life. And I found that mindfulness, which includes yoga, meditation, and breath work, all of these pillars have truly helped me to gain control over my anxiety. And so I really was passionate about this opportunity to compile a list of resources in the form of practices to help others in their mental wellness journey. And mindfulness is such an approachable and practical way to gain presence and to gain self-awareness. So that's what this book is all about. And that's how I came to write it. And I'm happy to share more about the process of, getting the publisher and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But before we do that, I'd love to dive more into the content and kind of what, brought about it and all of that. So, you mentioned that, this is kind of born from your own experiences, which I always say to authors on my show and to the people I work with. You write what you know. It's kind of the best way to go about doing it. Get something that's, close to you, close to your heart. It's what you can speak most about. So that being said, being that it's a topic so close to you, did you face any, particular challenges when incorporating mindfulness into your life? How did you overcome them? Was it more of a natural phase for you?
Absolutely. And great question. And I think the first part in answering that question is explaining what mindfulness is, because I know it's a term that many of us hear and hear often, but what really is it? And truly, mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment. And it's as simple as that, but we all know simple doesn't mean easy, right? And so it's the practice of being here and now, fully present for what is, whether it's the task at hand, the feelings and emotions that you're currently experiencing. And then from that place, we add a layer of without judgment. So being fully aware of your current state of being, the current task at hand, without that human impulse to label it as good versus bad, right versus wrong. And this is the practice of mindfulness. So that being said, this is challenging because we live in a modern society with a million notifications and pings going off all the time. We have 50,000 thoughts on average a day. And this combined with everything else going on in our lives can make it very, very hard to stay in the present moment. And yet we know that things like anxiety are often rooted either in the past, something that we are ruminating on, or in the future, something that we're worried about that isn't even here yet. And so when we can find ourselves in the present moment is when the true magic of mindfulness happens. So certainly not easy, definitely more challenging at first. When I first started, I was like, oh my goodness, this is quite the daunting feat. But as you keep going, it's like a muscle that we strengthen, right? And so first you experience a moment of presence, and then it's 2 moments. And then all of a sudden this becomes a practice that you can take with you into your daily life. And the final thing I'll share is that if you're listening and you're like, yep, that sounds like me. I don't know if I could do that. Well, try it with something that you do all the time, such as when you're driving, right? Like, Danielle, do you drive?
I mean, yeah, all the time.
Hey, and so have you ever had an experience where you get to your destination and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember getting here?
Yeah, like that, 30-minute drive took like 5 minutes, right? Like, with my head.
Right. Exactly. And so that would be the perfect opportunity for you the next time you're on that drive, you do it all the time, to be really present and to tune into the sounds, the sensations, the scenery, the colors, right? And really give yourself that gift of, oh, wow, I'm here. So that's a really fun way to apply mindfulness is if you drive, ride bike, anything that you brush your teeth, wash the dishes, something that you do regularly, try to infuse that with full present moment awareness.
Yeah, I love that. And, I'm sure that if you do practice that, it also gives you a layer of just, overall enjoyment in your life. For example, I mean, my morning commute to work is, that 30 minutes I mentioned before, but if I'm more present, I'm enjoying the music, I'm enjoying scenery or the feel of like the heated steering wheel in my hands or whatever it is, like you're enjoying it more. It feels more like a vacation than an everyday moment, I could imagine.
Well said. Can I borrow that? It feels more like a vacation than an everyday moment. That's
yeah. I mean, you got to treat every day like a vacation, right? As much as you can.
That's right, babe. And mindfulness is such a straight path to get there. So yes, that's exactly right. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And, you mentioned to me that your grandmother's actually been practicing mindfulness she's like 91 years old, all that. Has she been a big influence in this journey of yours?
So thank you. You're so sweet to pick up on that. It's my grandfather. And
sorry.
No, you're good. He has been joining me in these practices. So no, I actually inspired him because bless his heart, he's been going through some serious health issues that have created a lot of anxiety for him. And so I've been working with him on, we call him pop-up. So on pop-up, okay, take a deep breath. Can you relax your shoulders? As you exhale, tell me how you feel. And Danielle, my pop-up will be like, okay, you're right, I feel much better. Or we'll talk on the phone for 10 minutes and he'll say, hey, Ashton, guess what? I feel much more calm and much more present. Can we talk about my garden? It's so sweet to watch the shift from he starts in fear, he starts, really upset about what's going on with him health-wise. Of course, we can all understand that, but through a few moments of mindfulness, we're able to get him more grounded and present. So yes, thank you for bringing up pop-up. It's applicable and accessible to all ages. In fact, on my website, youalign.com, one of our most popular articles, we have over 2,000 articles on the site, is mindfulness practices for kids. So it's an article for parents to teach their children mindfulness. So truly, we can start young. And my goodness, can you imagine if you and I had been practicing mindfulness at ages 8, 10, 12? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually becoming a pretty big thing in the schools these days. When I'm not podcasting, ghostwriting, or editing, I also work as a teacher as well. And you wouldn't imagine the amount of like mindfulness things they're doing for kids these days. So it's great that you're kind of getting on the train as soon as these things are starting to pop up. The more resources, the better, for sure. Especially after COVID and all that. So
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it's more widespread, and thank you for the work that you do as a teacher. That's so sweet. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny because I this is my main thing too, but I also do that. So it's cool though. But kids really do need that, especially as you mentioned before. Like they're not present; they're always on their tablets. I've never had so many kids come in who know how to use the smartboard more than hold a pencil. So
Oh,
it's yeah, it's interesting. But your techniques definitely are something they can benefit from.
yeah.
For example, I was looking through your book a little bit, and you mentioned the 4-7-8 breath, which is something that you learned from Andrew Weil. I think the name is correctly pronounced. Can you share more about your experience teaching this technique, why it's so effective, and also perhaps share a little bit more of your other techniques that maybe you would have branched off of that one?
Absolutely, yes. So breathing techniques are one of the quickest and direct routes to bringing present moment awareness into your body. And we hear it all the time, right? People are upset and it's like, whoa, 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 just calm down and take a deep breath, right? And so when we add on the layer of counting the breath and different forms of breath retention or breath work, this actually deepens the effect for our nervous system. Now, the disclaimer is sometimes when we are in the height of anxiety or having an anxious moment, some forms of breath work can exacerbate, right? So it's important to be aware just from the lens of if something isn't working for you, that's okay. You can set it aside to try later, try something else. The point is to never give up on trying until you find a practice, a technique that does work for you. And the 4-7-8 breath is a very popular one. So the way that it works, and let's all do it together because it's more fun when we're practicing it together.
Okay.
Is this will be in through the nose and out through the mouth, and we'll inhale through the nose for a count of 4. We're going to hold at the top for a count of 7, and then we're going to breathe out through pursed lips, like for a count of 8. And if you're not watching the video, pursed lips meaning as if you're blowing out of a straw, like you're trying to blow bubbles in your chocolate milk. I've got the kids in my brain right now.
Yeah, that's a good technique. Good visual.
Thank you.
All right.
So here, yeah, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so breathe in through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through pursed lips. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it again. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're exhaling out. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Resume normal breathing in and out through your nose. And just take a moment to notice how that breath felt.
Yeah, it felt good, honestly. And I think anybody listening today could probably agree. I mean, who knows where you're listening right now, everybody. You could be on your own daily commute to work. You could be coming home from a stressful day, wherever you've been. It's nice to have a little bit of a break in the middle of a show and kind of just breathe. And again, just like that analogy of driving, right? Taking a moment to enjoy. Like you're listening to a podcast right now, everybody. Enjoy it. Relax. You just learned something fun.
There you go. Absolutely. And that breath, it can get easier with time. So I do want to acknowledge anyone who's like, that was really hard or that was really frustrating. So sometimes when we're so used to breathing really shallowly in and out of our chest, which we do throughout the day when we're not paying attention, the kind of like breath, then to take a deep, full breath like that might feel at first like our lungs don't have the capacity. I promise you they do. But if you felt like that out there, it's okay. That's actually quite normal. Keep with it and just take a few rounds of deep breaths in and out through your nose to start. So I always like to say that. Danielle, to answer the second part of your question, I have found that when I teach this, either in my teacher trainings, I do a lot of yoga and meditation teacher trainings, or in my classes and workshops, what I notice is a palpable shift in energy. So I like to start off a workshop or day one of my women's retreats when everyone's like excited and a little nervous and we're in a new place, with some of this breath work, including the 4-7-8 breath, because, we might arrive kind of jittery and ooh, and we're all up in our head and ooh, we're not really in our bodies. And that deep breath And that focus on holding the breath, on releasing the breath slowly, that brings us right back into our bodies. So hopefully you all felt that as you did that breath work. And that's what makes it so powerful. Once we get back into our bodies, that's when we can really start to slow things down. And the final thing I'll say on that is my mantra these days is let my breath be my first word. So often, yeah, thank you. We're quick to respond. We're quick to bite back. Everyone's on edge. Everyone's feeling really frazzled and maybe even fearful these days. And I understand. I'm right there with you. But that moment of pause and breath before can turn a reaction into a response. And
Yeah, definitely. Lets you think about what you're going to say too, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yes.
So you just offered us two really good, or I feel like there's probably more than two at this point, of really good techniques for mindfulness here. But your book offers 101 different practices. So, that must have been really time consuming to gather them all together. I'm wondering, perhaps this is a good time for us to transition into how did you create this book? What was the process of collecting, testing, selecting which practices to include?
Yes, great question. First of all, big shout out to my amazing editor extraordinaire, Marissa. She was so supportive in the brainstorming phase, and her and I just kind of going back and forth on exactly dialing in the approach and all of that. So she was immensely helpful. The way that I went about it is, as you know, I have lived with anxiety for very long, and I have also been a teacher for very long. And those two things together have created quite the resource book in my mind of techniques and practices that help. And so many of these were in my existing tool belt as a teacher, as a human being, And so from there, after I created that list, I was able to start visually seeing the categories that were popping out at me. So there's the mindful movement category, much of yoga and some other different forms of slow, intentional movement. There's meditation, right? So different body scan meditations or seated meditations. There's a whole breathwork chapter. Now we know why. And so they started to kind of fall into these separate pillars. There's also mindset techniques, which I'm such a big fan of as a mindset author. And there's straight up mindfulness practices. And that's the final chapter because that's the out into the world. Okay, go apply everything you've learned. So that's how it went. From there, once I had that list rather exhausted, then I started pulling from my trusted resources. So some incredible teachers and mentors in my life, as well as leaders and thought leaders in the mindfulness space. So through that research, then I would take these practices and I would try them myself because, of course, I wanted to make sure that these are truly going to work. And that was my process in compiling the rest. And so together, I have created a really impactful list of a wide variety of practices. And the reason why I wanted that variety is what I touched on earlier, that not every practice is going to work for every person every time. That's okay. Our needs change day to day, and what really resonates with one person, maybe not so much the other. And so that thought process went in as well. And how can I be as inclusive as possible and offer a broad swath of different approaches and techniques?
Well, first off, really good that you have just so many different options and avenues for your readers to take. I always tell the authors listening that, you need to make it so that your book is targeted to a specific audience, but also that it's approachable enough by enough people that you want to pick it up off the shelf and they can find use from it. So by doing this, you're, offering them just a buffet table of different ways to take the book. You know what I mean? It's a great way to go about it.
Thank you for that.
And you very warm, inviting tone, just kind of how you're talking to us right now. Mm-hmm. I could assume that's probably done by choice, right?
Absolutely. I know from my personal experience that anxiety can be debilitating and overwhelming. And so we want to make these practices as inviting and welcoming as possible. And that's, of course, my goal as an author and also as a teacher and a leader. So thank you for seeing that.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's something that everybody needs to be conscious about when they're writing their books, as well as that tone and making sure it's consistent throughout the book as well. Especially because you do include a lot of scientific information as well. How did you go about, keeping that inviting tone, but also making sure the book was accessible and practical while explaining all these scientific things that, I'll be honest, are a little bit above my head. So...
You're right. It's a lot. And it is a fine balance, right? Because my goal from the start was to be able to educate and inform softly, right? Because the primary focus of the book, of course, is to ease anxiety. And some of that comes with a little bit of education. And so being able to explain it in a way that people are like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And oh, okay, when I'm in fight or flight, that's my sympathetic nervous system. And so I understand, I'm with you. This stuff is not stuff that, is kind of mainstream knowledge. So I wanted to demystify it because I've been in plenty of yoga classes or, mental health seminars where they're talking about things so scientifically. It's like, you lost me. So we don't want people to feel excluded or somehow like I'm not getting it, right? So I wanted to give enough information so people who want to learn more, they can, and now they're prepared to do so without so much they're like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to relieve my anxiety. Now I have more because I don't know half the things she's saying.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit counteractive.
Right. And so I think that's also where like my teaching background kind of plays in of like, okay, how can I make this fun and digestible and engaging and just enough without being too much?
Yeah, definitely. And again, to everybody listening, something we should all be doing with our books. Unless you're writing a scholarly article for, whatever paper publication, you need to make it for the general audience so that everybody can feel like they're part of it.
Absolutely.
So that being said, you were talking to me a little bit about how you went from a little bit of a publishing journey with this one once you were finished writing the book. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that to the audience today?
Absolutely. Yeah, my publishing journeys have been quite different each go around. And this last one came through, honestly, I had the opportunity to write the foreword of a friend's book. And so when I was highly honored and I said, absolutely, I would do that. And if you'd be open to, I would love an introduction with your editor. So that was kind of how I got the foot in the door on that one. And to be honest with you all, when I first reached out and connected with that contact, I pitched, a list of ideas that I was really excited to write on across different genres. And I got a no back across the board, like a polite and friendly no, but a no nonetheless. And I know that this is where many people will go, all right, well, I shot my shot, right? Well, not this persistent woman over here. I said, okay, well, how about this round of ideas? And I got a flat out no again. That's when I said, if you would be so willing to schedule a 15-minute call, I would love to understand more of what you are looking for and how I could potentially fill that role. Luckily, that contact was generous with their time and said yes. And that's how ultimately, long story short, I was able to get this opportunity to write this book. So that was my process. And I share it with everyone listening because as authors, we get a lot of no's. We get a lot of rejections. That's all part of the process. I'm sure Danielle can speak more to that. And yet it's so important to be persistent and to be persistent through the lens of self-confidence and through the lens of what I have to offer is of impact. And therefore it's doing my potential future readers a disservice to not fight for it because I can't imagine if this didn't exist now because I'm so passionate about these practices and being able to share them. So it was through that lens that I was able to persevere and remain persistent even after several rounds of no's. And so when we can take that perspective, it takes the focus off of, well, who am I? They already told me no, to no, I have something important to contribute and I believe in it. So I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And, what I love about that is you not only, kept reapplying, right, but you asked for a couple minutes of their time. You turned yourself into a name on a page, into somebody they put a face to as well, which I think is a really cool tip. Definitely. Because, whenever you build that, it's all about those connections. The same way even by writing the forward, you didn't just have that opportunity. You took another step and was like, can you connect me, for example? So these are things that I think everybody listening today definitely should be keeping in mind in their own journeys.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that being said, you have the book out. Well, the book is out, so everybody, make sure to check it out. We're going to put the links to it in the description box. And, sort of what's next on the horizon for you? You've worked so hard on this book. Is there going to be more in the future? What else can you be on the lookout for?
Thank you for that fun question. It's so important that we talk about what we want to bring into our reality because that's how we make it a reality. So thank you for that platform to do that. Danielle, this is my dream as a writer, and I'm going to make it a reality. Step one, I really want to get a literary agent. So that's my goal for this year. And so any literary agents out there listening, hello, my would love to meet you. Also, I have this vision that I can get hired by a publisher or an entity of some sort that recognizes my abilities, my brain, and my strengths as a writer, and wants to bring me on to consistently put out content for them, and then support that content with writers' retreats and writing seminars and writing workshops, and being able to really kind of branch out in all of this writing that I love so much, from the writing to the editing to the consulting to the teaching. And so that's really what I'm envisioning and calling in next for me. So let's circle back in 2026 and see how much I've gotten accomplished on these goals. And
I love that though. And, Ashton, you don't need to wait for, somebody to pick you up there. There's nothing stopping you these days. You can, trailblaze and, get those content out yourself too and, market it. Just letting you know, the world is an open place. And same to our listeners today, you have a dream, go for it, Set up that website, start promoting. Do you have a website currently that perhaps people can check out? Maybe you might have some existing content on there.
Yes, I have my personal website, which is ashtonaugust.com. And that's where you can learn more about me and all that I do and how I can potentially support you. As I mentioned, I am a consultant and I do work particularly with writers and also people in the wellness space. I've got a gush on my current writing client right now. She is a novelist and she's working on her first novel, and this book is fire. And so I'm so charged up about it. I adore her writing and I'm so honored to play a very small role in it. So it's just, this work is lighting me up. So ashtonaugust.com, learn more about that. You can also check out my company, which is youaligned.com, YOU. And we've got thousands of articles to support you on your wellness journey. I know we're all authors here on this podcast, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking care of ourselves. So you can check that out as well. And Danielle, if I can ask you a question, actually, I would love to pick your brain and your expertise on what you told me. You said you don't need to wait, you can trailblaze. So if you're talking about the agent and or the writing aspect itself, I would love for you to please share a little bit more of, okay, how do we go about that?
Yeah, if I'm going to start off by talking about the agent thing, you can always kind of be your own agent as well, kind of like how you gave me the example for like literally reaching out to people. Do you have 15 minutes of your time? It's always good to have somebody there, speaking for you and helping you out some with more connections as well. So just saying it shouldn't be a roadblock. It could be something else. I'm sure you've thought about that yourself too, Ashton, being, with your experiences. But yeah, if you're looking to kind of, hold retreats, write consistent content, all that kind of thing, it's a matter of just building your own author's platform, which, you sort of already have with your website itself. It's kind of just a matter of, maybe increasing some marketing, just keeping up with the promotions, hopping onto more podcasts, that sort of thing. Authors on Mission does offer a lot of like marketing services and helping, build your platform as well. And also for your next books, you can always, build a platform from there too. I have a lot of people who come to me because they want to increase that. So when they write their books, we intentionally structure the book around future content to come, so a certain chapter could also be turned into a YouTube short or, a blog or a TED Talk, whatever it might be. So, we've helped a lot of clients get onto TED Talks and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's just, it's something that you can do any day of the week. Just get your, head out there. And that's something that you have already done. So you're already on the ballpark with that.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. And one quick final follow-up question, because this actually reminds me of one thing that I haven't tried yet myself, but I know a lot of other writers do. So what's your opinion on Substack in the context of getting out there and, building up our own presence? Do you recommend Substack? What has your experience been with it for authors?
I do know a lot of authors who have Substacks. I do find it useful because, one, you're practicing your own writing. You're enhancing your skills every time you're writing, for example, just simple baseline. But also the more content out there with your name on it, the more SEO it's going to give you, and then people will just find you easier. I always recommend it. I write all the blogs and everything for an Authors on Mission, so I know it's about quality content, but the content is also an aspect of it. So I would always recommend that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, for sure. And everybody listening today, same deal. I mean, if you have the ability, you have the resource, you have the ideas, go for it. So
I love it. Yeah. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to start it. I'm going to finally start that Substack.
Do it, Ashton. But I'm going to bounce the ball back to you now. Do you have any last bits of advice to our listeners today, be it about writing or wellness or perhaps both?
I will focus on writers for all of my authors out there listening. I want to say a few quick things. First, when you feel like you are lacking the inspiration, when you feel uninspired, unenergized, all those things to write, please step away. Please don't beat yourself up for it. Please go take a beautiful walk in nature. Please go snuggle a pet or, eat some nourishing food, come back. And that's a big, very simple, but often overlooked point, especially for me, even myself. I would be like, no, I've got to write for 3 more hours. Well, your energy introduces yourself. And so that kind of shines through in your writing versus when you're feeling inspired because you just moved your body, you just did something good for yourself, you allowed yourself to step away. So that's one thing right there. Secondly, with that being said, so adding that to your formula of writing, keep going. Consistency is key. Even if you hate what you're writing, make yourself write every day. So if those seem contradictory, they're not. And the final thing I'll say is be like me and be persistent. That has been my biggest success in life, has been just being persistent. And when I hear a no, it's okay, that's not exactly what they're looking for. Instead of being shut down and taking it personally, it's okay, challenge accepted. I'm going to find a different way. So be consistent, be kind to yourself, and keep going. And truly, that simple yet potent formula is going to lead to your success. And I believe in you, and you have support. You have resources like Danielle and Authors on Mission. I love this platform and what they're doing. You have people out there like me. Reach out. I'm very accessible. So even if you don't want to work with me as a client, hit me up and be like, hey, I'm going through this, and I will reply. It might be a couple weeks if it's on Instagram, but hey.
Well, hey, speaking of that, how can they find you on your Instagram? What's your handle? Or any other links you might want to share with us we could put into the chat in addition to what you mentioned before?
Absolutely. So again, AshtonAugust.com is the website. And then on Instagram, it's I am Ashton August. You can also find me with that same name on Facebook.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much for these really incredible insights. You've been sharing amazing wisdom, all about your personal journey as well, your practical techniques. I think our audience has a lot to benefit from. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate you coming on.
Good. Well, then, mission accomplished. Thank you again to everyone listening. And thank you so much, Danielle, for having me. I've truly enjoyed our conversation and your beautiful mind and all that you have to share. Thank you.
Thank you. And right back at you. And to all of our listeners, please check out 101 Mindfulness Practices to ease your anxiety. We're going to have the links to everything in the description box. So click on it, check it out. Remember, no matter what it is, you can always learn something from a book like this because, she's offered so many different techniques in addition to all the writing techniques as well today. So everybody listening, on Authors on Mission, we don't just talk about success. We provide you with the tools, the insights, and inspiration to become an expert in your own right. Until next time, stay present, stay mindful, keep pursuing your mission, and we'll see you next time. This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.